I'm Callum Dilietto, and this is a very special edition of the Flock Together podcast in partnership with M&I, where we'll be talking to hoteliers. And I am joined by Daniel. How are you?
I'm very well. Great to be here. Thank you, Callum.
You work at the Shangri-La, and we are currently sat in the Shangri-La at the Shard, London.
And it feels very good to be here.
It does. It's a great property and the tallest in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
Yeah.
I actually won a bet with that little factoid very recently, and I was so chuffed. They didn't know that I was so familiar with the hotel, and I was very smug afterwards.
I'm glad to hear it.
So thank you.
Yeah.
But obviously you've had a very impressive career, but I'd love to know, what was the first ever hotel that you worked in?
Yeah, so the first hotel was the Royal Horse Guards, just along the Thames at Embankment, so 282 bedroom hotel. And it was a great introduction. I started handling corporate and government business. It's right next to the MOD. So it gave me a really good insight in terms of handling large delegations and also handling VIPs. So it was a good starting point.
Yeah, that is a really good start. And obviously you will have stayed in lots of lovely hotels, particularly Shangri-La properties. But what was the last hotel that you just stayed in?
The last hotel was actually right here 2 weeks ago during our sales showcase. So we had a week with 14 of our hoteliers in the UK, and we were out visiting customers and running events. And we came back here, and I was able to stay for 2 nights, which was fantastic. So great to be back in the hotel, and it always feels like home, to be honest. It's one of those properties that everybody talks about, the views obviously, but for me it's really the warmth of the hospitality that you receive here.
And how often do you get to stay here?
Not that often, surprisingly.
So it's quite a nice
not
treat.
as often as you would think, but it's a real treat when we do.
The next part of the podcast is revisit, and the first question would be, really, if you could relive a destination and go back in time to an experience that you had in the past, which would it be?
Well, it was relatively recent, actually. 2 years ago, I stayed in Mauritius at the Shangri-La Hotels Resorts, and I was there with my family. And I've got 3 boys, 7, 9 and 12. So to see them experience that destination through their eyes was incredible. And I'd love to go back since we've reopened it following a refurbishment. I'd love to see more of the island. I didn't get a chance to play golf last time, so I'd also like to do that. So
I've not been to Mauritius, and I really do want to go, but I think there's something extra special about living an experience through it. Doesn't just have to be your children, but just through someone that is experiencing it new as well. And you know, I've been to New York 1,000 times, but I recently went with my cousins who have never been, and it was like a whole fresh destination. So I think there's definitely something about living it with people, but yeah, Mauritius, from what I've seen, looks incredible.
No, amazing destination, it really is. And it was just seeing them. There's the monkeys in the trees and the dolphins and the hermit crabs on the beach for them. So it was so much fun.
And if you could make any hotel a home, which would it be?
So I've always wanted to live in Paris at some point in my life, and I'd love to be able to learn French finally. So it would be Shangri-La in Paris. It's a residential area, neighborhood. The views of the Eiffel Tower are fabulous, obviously, but it's also the former home of Prince Roland Bonaparte, so it has a very residential feel. So that would work for me.
Residential, you're like, it used to be the home
Palatial.
of Prince, so that works for me. I think I could make a palace at home.
Exactly.
I love that. If you could acquire another hotel that isn't part of your collection, which one would it be?
I would love for us to open a hotel in Italy. I've always loved the country, the culture, the food, everything about it, really. In terms of the type of hotels, there are lots of independent boutique hotels in Italy, and if I think of Rome and Florence, it'd be wonderful to have a property there in one of those cities. We also recently just unveiled a new brand called Shangri-La Signatures, with the first opening in Hangzhou in China. And it's really all about the local heritage, and I think that I could see that type of property really working really well in Italy. So yeah.
Being half Italian, I'll always be biased towards Italy, but I do think that you could literally throw a dart anywhere in that country and it would land somewhere beautiful and somewhere full of good food and full of great, like it just seems like wherever I've been in Italy, and I've been to a fair few places, I've never not thought this is surreal.
I could not agree anymore. Yeah. Absolutely. So it would be incredible to have a hotel there.
The next part of the podcast is Reimagine, and this is an opportunity for you to create your own incentive for yourself. You know, your properties will have been home to incentive trips for many others, but if you were to create an incentive trip for yourself, where would you go, what would you do, and which celebrity would accompany you?
Okay. It's quite an easy one for me. It would be Japan, because it's been at the top of the list for a very long time. Everyone that comes back from there tells me how incredible the culture and the food is, and it's somewhere that's I've always wanted to visit. So it would be Japan. In terms of what I would do, my two passions really are golf and skiing in equal measure. So it would definitely have to involve one of those two. I always think about the scene in Lost in Translation when Bill Murray tees it up. And it's just such a serene, beautiful picture with Mount Fuji behind. So that's certainly something that I would love to do. And of course, in terms of celebrity, it would have to be Bill Murray.
I wasn't sure if you could say Scarlett Johansson or Bill Murray then.
Well, Rory McIlroy would work as well. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. That's actually great. I have done Japan, but I didn't ski and I didn't play golf there. But I know that both are incredible there. I went to the top of Mount Fuji and it was incredibly cloudy and misty, and so my views were probably as my hand was as far as I could see. But I think if you love golf and you love skiing, and Bill Murray would be, I just feel like he'd be a great guy to hang around with. I mean, God, the banter would just be, I think you'd just be laughing more. You wouldn't be able to play a good game of golf.
Yeah.
But you'd have a fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The penultimate part of the podcast is reform. So this is an opportunity for you to write a letter to the industry and just say what you want to say. What would your letter be?
I mean, for me, one of the big strengths of this industry is the inclusivity. I think it's fantastic compared to some other industries. And I think that's something that, that authenticity and people being allowed to be themselves is very, very important. I think when you experience service in a hotel, 5-star luxury hotel, if someone can be themselves, then that really comes across. So for me, it would be to continue with that and to encourage people to be themselves ultimately, because I think that, that has a big impact, and it's genuine and it comes from a place that's genuine. So that would be, that's something that I think is fantastic about our business, our industry. And I would say that here at the Shangri-La, the Shard, kudos to Kurt Macker, the GM, and his team, because they've definitely created a very relaxed level of service. It's Forbes 5-star, but it still feels very relaxed and genuine. So I think that's all to do with the fact that it is, he's made it such an inclusive environment.
I think that's something that luxury hotels have only just, in recent years, started to truly adopt. And coming from a less fortunate socio-economic background myself, I remember going into 5-star properties and feeling very alienated and feeling very insecure. Obviously then falling into this industry and working in this industry, it's changed, but I have noticed that there are still properties that are, you have to be wearing shoes, you need to be wearing a dinner jacket, this, that and the other. And I think the world has moved on from that space, and being able to make, it could be someone's won a competition. It could be that they've just been gifted this experience, and why should they be robbed of the same treatment that a regular stayer would receive? And I just think there's something really powerful about making everybody feel comfortable and relaxed, and that in itself is a luxury that goes beyond just, gold forks.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and I think London typically, certainly historically, was very traditional in terms of that 5-star experience, very, very formal, and that there is still a place for that in certain hotels, obviously. But I think it's great that things have changed now, and we're in a very different place, which is fantastic.
The final part of the podcast is a quick fire round of travel preferences. So I'm just going to ask you these questions and just say the first thing that comes to mind. Packing, last minute or week before?
A week before, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Very, very organised.
Very prepared, yeah. OCD all the way, yeah.
Carry on or check in?
Ideally carry on, but I don't mind to check in, yeah.
Yeah, I'm carry on all the way, all the time.
Short haul, 100%, yeah.
Airport, lounge or shopping?
Lounge, I think, yeah.
I feel like as a well-planned person, that makes a lot of sense, because you don't need to do any last-minute shopping.
Exactly.
You packed a week ago,
That's it.
Aisle or window?
Aisle on short haul, window on long haul.
Because you want to sleep?
Yes.
Yeah, fair. City or nature?
Nature.
Lay-in or early start?
Early start. Yeah.
Okay. With three boys, I'm surprised. Yeah. I thought you'd be like lay-in.
I'm used to it now. Yeah. Body clock's it's completely gone now, so it's always an early start.
Poolside or seaside?
Poolside.
And finally, planned or spontaneous? But I think I know the answer to that one.
They're planned. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the Flock Together podcast, and it's been great to hear your stories.
It's been amazing. Thank you so much, Callum. Appreciate it.